Hello, and welcome to the Froggy Five. I'm your host, Jim Fralick, founder and managing partner of Froggy Companies. And I'm very excited today to be joined by David Pere, who I consider a Marine Corps real estate rock star. He's first and foremost a Marine, and he's a veteran who is now still in the reserves, I believe. And back in 2015, Dave did his first house hack, first investment, and then took off from there. He got addicted to it. 5 years later, fast forward 5 years later, he'd gone from negative net worth to being a millionaire with over 100 rentals. And that's why he's a military to millionaire guy that you may see out there on websites and social media. So Dave, I'm happy to have you here. I'll tell the people one more thing about you, that Dave spends his time helping service members, veterans, and families learn how to build their own wealth through real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and personal finance. And you wrote a book about it. You'll see the BS there in the background, but the No BS Guide to Military Life. So
if my camera was set up properly, you'd be able to see that it says no BS, but my other camera's not working right now, so we're playing BS today, I guess.
Very interesting. It's just all BS today instead of no BS. It's the opposite of what you're trying to
tell you about how wonderful all the scammy, send money to whatever Nigerian prince.
There you go. So Dave, it's been 5 years since I last interviewed you, and that was on my podcast for Patriots. If anyone wants to check that out, I did about 15 episodes and was tired of editing my own audio podcast at the time and said, I better go make a lot more money in real estate. So I went and made my own million and said, okay, I'll come back. And now I'm doing a little more outreach and marketing, and thought I'd start the Froggy Five because I really do. I don't want to sound too cliche about it, but I really do realize that the thing I like best about the podcast is I actually get time, like people like you take the time, and we're actually getting to have a conversation because there's so much going on. And then I'm going, oh, that's great. And then it's like, oh yeah, well, it has to be edited and put out there, and we'll have to like advertise that somehow. But in the end, when I look back over the body of work of podcasts, it's the conversations. You feel the same way, kind of? You enjoy it?
One of the reasons I started it in the first place was I realized that, if I went to people who were further along financially and just said, can I have 45 minutes to pick your brain? They're all going to look at me like I'm an asshole. But if I say, hey, you want to be on my podcast, it'll go out to this many people, then it's a win-win. And I get their 45 minutes to ask them anything I want to ask them and learn from them, while simultaneously it helps them, it helps me, it helps everybody who's listening. And so, it's funny, I joke about that. I've said that for a while. Early last month, I went to a good friend, Adam Whitney's retirement ceremony from the Marine Corps. And the moment he texted me and was like, hey, I'd love you to RSVP if you can make it out here, I texted a mutual friend of ours named Bill Allen, who runs a seven-figure flipping. He runs like a big coaching platform for multifamily, but he started his house flipping, wholesaling, and then it's kind of moved into multifamily space. He's a Navy vet, and he has his own plane, and he's always flying, wherever. And so I texted him, and I was like, hey, Bill, are you going to Adam's thing? Because if so, could I just drive to Nashville and fly with you? We've been talking about me taking a ride. And so I flew in his plane. He actually let me take off and land it, which was kind of cool. And I flew in his plane to Virginia for the retirement and flew back. But we did a podcast on the way back in his plane where he interviewed me for his show. And it was funny because on that podcast, I pointed out exactly what you're saying. Like, that was the reason I started it. And Bill was where it first came to life, because I found him in my Facebook group. He made a comment to somebody, and I was like, wow, that sounds like this guy knows what he's talking about. And I reached out to him. And then, we did a 45-minute podcast where I got to ask him legitimate questions, where he was mentoring me and helping me out. Then he stayed on the podcast for like 30 minutes after we stopped recording and was just pouring into me. And now he's been on my show 3 times. I've been on his show twice. We do business together. Members of my group join his group. Members of his group join my group. And like, it's been wildly beneficial to me.
Wow.
And it was just cool to be able to like, hey, this is like, you're the proof source, bud. Like, we're the plane. We're in your plane right now, headed to a buddy's retirement where, both of us met him through our platforms. That, yeah, it was cool.
That is awesome. And just to clarify one thing, he let you land as well? You have some flying experience?
I mean, obviously he was still, it's like when you play like the driver's ed game, but, okay. I've actually, so there's a, I mean, not that it's anything like having a license, but there's a place in San Diego that lets you can basically rent what's it called? An extra. I forget the numbers. There's like a 300 extra or whatever, a stunt plane, and it's a 2-seater, and they take you up, and then the guy will do a backflip, and then he'll walk you through how to do a backflip and give you the controls, and then he'll do a barrel roll, and then he'll walk you through how to do a barrel roll. And so I've done that two times. So probably like 2 hours in the air, not a whole lot of time, but 2 hours in the air pulling 7Gs and backflips and whatever. So it's honestly not that complex to land. Like, Bill was talking me through it, and he's like, hey, just aim the nose right above those numbers. When you get to the numbers, level out, kill the throttle, hit the brake. And I was like, it's actually not that hard. He was helping through everything, but taking off is exceptionally easy, and landing. I mean, obviously, I don't know all the checklists and controls and widgets and whatever, but he let me fly around while we were up there. He's like, "Yeah, if you want to go that way, so it was fun."
Put your head on a swivel. Yeah. Interesting. That could go do just a whole separate podcast on just that as a former Air Force officer, but it's interesting. Marine Corps flying. Yeah, I almost joined the Marine Corps.
What's funny is he wasn't even an aviator, like a fixed wing. He was a UH-60 pilot, like a helicopter guy in the Navy. But if you fly, they say helicopters are harder to fly anyway. So if you can fly that, I don't know any helicopter pilot that doesn't have or can't have their fixed wing license too. And anyone who spent time in the Navy. I'm not saying that Air Force pilots aren't that great. There are phenomenal Air Force pilots. But anybody who's been around the Navy and watched something land on a carrier in rough seas just knows it's a whole different beast. Like, if you can do that, it's funny because you watch. There was a video that went viral last year at the Formula One race in Vegas. There was a pilot coming in a private plane, and he basically came in at a 90-degree angle to the runway, and like right at the last second, he banked, and he did like a full sliding bank and touched down, like one solid motion. And the video went viral, and all the caption said was, "Tell me you were a carrier pilot without telling me you were a carrier pilot." And I'm watching the video, and I was like, dude, that guy, like the way he hooked a $60 million aircraft like that and touched down like perfectly. I'm like, yeah, he was absolutely a fighter pilot. And some billionaire's like, I got you. You're going to be my guy. And it's crazy.
No doubt. And I'm from the Top Gun generation that was inspired to become a fighter pilot, but didn't become a fighter pilot, all because Tom Cruise is on a motorcycle, and we were like, "Yeah, man, I'm in the danger zone here."
Tom Cruise is nuts.
And then, if I had got I got a 4-year Air Force ROTC scholarship and a 3.5-year Navy Marine Corps one. Like, if that had been one off different, I would have been Navy. But either way, they would have been lying to me about my chances of becoming a pilot, especially if you're a person who gets motion sickness. But
mine's my ears.
Yeah,
I can't equalize this one. They would never have let me flown in the military.
Oh,
of course, it's their fault that I can't equalize it. I could equalize it when I joined. I couldn't equalize it after I drove over a couple of roadside bombs. So,
that'll do it. That'll do it. But that's interesting. Yeah, the Marine Corps. So I hope that's nothing to do with. So that little segue we just had was hopefully nothing to do with why so many Ospreys are falling out of the sky, and we got that. Hopefully, the Marine Corps they are training their pilots to fly.
I would venture to say that Marine Corps pilots are better than any other pilot. And by better, I just mean cleared to do crazier things.
Yeah.
Not that any other pilot in any other branch can't do those things. But the Air Force is like, we really don't need to clip treetops. Like, we're going to not do that. And the Marine Corps is like, watch this. I bet that guy can reach out of his truck and touch my skid as I go by in my helicopter. I have been buzzed by Cobras and things before driving convoys where I'm like, I swear I could just reach up and touch the bird. It's scary what those guys are willing to do. I mean, I've seen planes buzz below tree lines. I
don't doubt it. I had a buddy who's a merchant marine that said he was leaving Djibouti recently, and he got like buzzed by. I'm sure if I had money on it, I would say it was probably a marine. And they just came out there. They were seeing something on the radar. One guy was going to watch, like, "Hey, no, there's something closing fast here. What is it?" Then they look up, and it's like they're flying by, probably laughing their ass off. He's like, they're probably like, I'm sitting here like,
they're stupid. I will say though, the only time I've ever personally like damn near shit my pants in an airplane was an Air Force pilot, and it was a C-130 doing a combat landing into Camp Leatherneck, Afghanistan. And I don't know if you ever went through a combat landing, but like they don't warn us, in the back. And so there's like, you're sitting in a C-130, there's like 9 seats abreast, or actually it would have been, this wasn't the C-130, this would have been a C-5, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, we're sitting in, it's like 9 seats across, you're hugging your bag, you're just wedged in this thing. And then combat landing is basically where they go from, you can't touch me because I'm at 30,000 feet to 1,000 feet in like 90 seconds. They just nosedive. Yeah. And then at the last second, they level off. And the theory is we came out of the sky so fast, nobody would have had time to shoot us down. And if there's anywhere that they're going into a combat zone, they will land, hard and fast and whatever. And they don't tell you in the back seat that this is happening. And it's like 90 seconds of that feeling where the roller coaster lurches and you're like out of your seat. And then the whole time you're like, we're going to die. And then it levels out and you come back into your seat and it hits the ground and it scares the hell out of you.
And we got you here.
That was an Air Force pilot. And I'm sure they were giggling the whole time, like, watch these fucking Marines. They probably had a GoPro watching us, like.
Wow. Oh, man. That I can picture that totally. They're just trying to save you from SA-7s and other shoulder launch types of things. So,
yeah. Anyway, now that we've done a whole podcast on airplanes,
it's more interesting. But I'll rein it in. I'll rein in my last Marine Corps. No, I'll give you one more story. I was, of course, I wanted to be a pilot. 1990, I'm in college at Georgia Tech, and Desert Storm happens, right? And that whole era of my life, I'm just pumped up, right? You want to go anywhere in the world, fight anybody. It's all for freedom. Anybody's hurt, that's rah-rah. That's who I was. And so the Iraqis were launching Scud missiles over into Israel. So a lot of us, just young kids, thought, oh man, this thing's going to turn into like a world war, right? So I'm just running around downtown Atlanta one day, and I'm like, I'm not waiting. I got 2 more years of ROTC in college. I'm not waiting for this. I'm going in, right? I'm going, and I go to the Marine Corps recruiter's office. I want to fly, whatever. Harriers, I want to fly I want to anything, right? Can I come fly? Absolutely. You can fly with the Marine Corps. We'll take you in. We don't. Our bar's a little lower for you to fly. Come on, So I was like signing paperwork and shit, and like literally like 2 weeks later, the war was over. So I was like, oh no, I'm good. I'll stay in college, I guess. That's my Marine Corps. That's the closest. Is maybe the second closest I came to being a Marine Corps. The second time was when I was a lieutenant, and I went to a Marine Corps major that was on my base at the time at Langley. We were in a meeting together. And I said, look, I think I want to switch to the Marine Corps. And, I'm tired of this. I didn't know I was going to just have an office job, imagery intelligence. They made it sound like I was going to be doing recon. I wanted to be behind enemy lines and everything. And I'm here, in a room with light tables, and then UAVs were just starting. And he pulled me aside and he sort of gave me the facts. Like, I've never seen an Air Force first lieutenant that wanted to go the other way. I've seen lots of Marines that wanted to go live the cushier Air Force life. So you need to rethink this for a few weeks. Talk to your wife. Yeah, those are my Marine Corps stories for you. So I almost
sounds about right. Most people, I don't know too many people who swap into the Marine Corps.
Off that kick, let's go back to real estate. So I haven't talked to you much in 5 years. We've talked a few times off and on, but not really about. Give me a quick progression of like what's been going on the last 5 years, sort of motivational of like how you built up your business.
Oh man, 5 years would have been 2019, 2020, yeah.
Was COVID era nice to you? Did you build up a portfolio?
I mean, by the time I left the Marine Corps, I had about 116 doors. I only count the ones that I have controlling interest in. So, I'm either a 33-33-30 or a 50-50 or, or 100%, whatever. Probably at like 140 right now. And then I've got probably another 1,000 that I've, raised money for and helped with and have a small percent. I think anywhere from like 1/3% ownership to, I think my recent one is 12.5% interest or percent ownership. I'm not the controlling on any of those. And I actually really like that because some of these are really cool deals. Like the most recent one is I need more coffee. 130 unit in Townsend, Tennessee, right outside the Smoky Mountains. It's got 3 pools, 2 hot tubs, a wedding venue, 8 buildings on 12 acres. It's super, super cool. And, I might only own like 12% of that deal, but it's just fun. It's fun. It's scalable. There's a lot of room to grow on that. I took my son out there for vacation last month, and we got to stay at the hotel for free. And, it's just a cool asset to show off Vice. I own a couple small apartments, a hotel, an RV park, and a bunch of 1 and 2 unit properties myself or with a partner. And those are fun, but like none of them are really, I guess the one hotel we have, I go stay there for free with my kid, and it has a pool, but it's right down the road, so it's not as cool. And I guess realistically I could do that with the RV park too, but I don't know. He doesn't seem to be too much of a camper, so maybe one of these days. But yeah, I guess that's been it.
You've been growing a lot of business. I guess let me vector you in a little bit more, Marine. Let me give you an Air Force vector on this one. Your business has a few different aspects, right? You've written this book. You coach people. You've done a much more real estate since I last talked to you. On top of it, sort of what's your balance? Do you take periods specifically where you're like, we're going to do deals, or I do deals for 2 hours in the morning and I do coaching from XYZ? How do you balance all that? What's your balance look like, and has it shifted at all between how much time you spend helping other people or coaching or doing media versus how much time you spend analyzing deals, or how does that all work?
I spend almost no time on real estate right now. Probably like 2 or 3 hours a week. And that's because where I've gotten to now is people bring me deals and they say, hey, you want to help me out with raising for this one? Or, hey, if we do XYZ, we can take this one down. Or, hey, I'll sell you this one and we can do it in a way that's zero down. And so I just look at it quickly. I'm like, yep, I want in on that. And this guy's operating it. This guy's the property manager. I come up with the money for it. Then I move on to the next one. And I try to just kind of stick it in this little corner and move on. And, sure. It's been really nice. I still do some stuff, but like, it's funny because I went from real estate was like where I put all my focus in the beginning, and I was trying to buy like a second door or a fifth door or a third door, to now I put the vast majority of my time into helping others, building the community, scaling all that, and bringing in more revenue. And then deals just kind of pop up, and I jump on them when I can. And so this year we bought the 130 unit hotel. I bought a duplex with no money out of pocket, and then I bought a 13 single family house portfolio for we paid $350, has a vacant lot as well, and we're just kind of slowly renovating. We're going to sell and renovate and sell until we basically own it free and clear, and we raise the capital.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to ask you some questions related to some of the technology use, because I'm on your email list and I see these different technologies, and a part of our business now is consulting for different investment firms or development firms, and I've used a lot of the technology, not all of it, and I see some stuff come out of you where you're overlapping certain types of technology, and I'm trying to understand. I've seen like PropStream recently, which I just called them today. I don't know if you've ever used that for commercial buildings too. They told me you can filter by commercial buildings. I thought of them only as residential. Have you used that for?
Yeah, I use PropStream for basically everything. I don't know that their skip tracing is amazing for like commercial properties per se, but you can sort in their system. You can be like, I only want to see self-storage units, and it'll pop everything up to self-storage. And it's great for whittling down who you want to target. It's probably the only real estate specific platform that I will pay for, no matter if I'm using it, just because even if it's once a quarter that I want to double check a value. Like, I just love the information PropStream puts out. So I have not been full-time wholesaling or running an off-market business for the last 2 years. I sold it, and I still use that platform at least once a month to validate what somebody's sending me, or to say, hey, look at these 3 things that popped up, and I'm going to go try to hunt them down. And
cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever use Reonomy? Because I'm curious.
I did not. No.
All right. So I almost used it before, and I don't want to say anything too bad about them because I've used them a few times. I thought about it, but then I went on there, and some assets that we had, like in a Washington DC asset, wasn't on there. Like I knew, and you're mainly targeting where distressed commercial property is. You know what I mean? So you can find out if loans are coming due. and maybe go make an offer early to someone to solve whatever problem you could see coming, which everybody's been predicting a lot of commercial real estate crash right now, but it hasn't quite been as distressed as I expect to see. I don't know. What about in your circles?
No, I mean, everybody's been predicting the sky's going to fall for the last 6 years. Maybe it will, but it sure as hell isn't yet.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing with it too. So I was comparing Reonomy with PropStream and then looking at, good targets for sale leaseback opportunities, really. So that's what made me ask that. But the two things that caught my attention that one that I'm familiar with, one I'm less familiar with, and that's I think RE Simply, and then Go High Level, which a lot of people are using Go High Level now. But I want to understand sort of at the macro level or as much detail as you want, like how these two things work together in your business.
They actually don't at all. I would say this. If you're trying to build like an off-market deal machine where you're marketing to sellers directly and consistently, ReSimply is a must. And it can work with commercial properties, but I think of more like residential wholesalers and house flippers when I talk through it. And that platform's amazing. If you're thinking more from a business perspective, Go High Level. So I use ReSimply for our, when we send out direct mail letters for wholesaling or finding properties off market. That's what we use ReSimply for. Go High Level is what keeps my entire business afloat. So they're two CRMs, but Go High Level you can build Go High Level out to do real estate stuff, but ReSimply is affordable, and their founder Sherrod is a rock star, and they have basically just said, how can we make the best all-in-one CRM, list stacking, skip tracing solution for wholesalers and flippers to find deals off market, market to them, stay up on top, follow up with them, manage their deals, manage their projects, hold inventory and sell. And that's what they're amazing at. Go High Level is like, how can we take any business or business owner and erase like every tool they use and just be us? And so, Go High Level eliminated my MailChimp email marketing, my Calendly, my ClickFunnels, my any SMS texting software I use. I mean, it brought everything in-house. It's a full-blown CRM that'll do anything and everything. And you can even use Stripe to check out for products. You can do everything. And I love it for that. And that's where I run my referral program through that. I run my, marketing to investors through that. I run really everything through Go High Level.
Good. So when I get emails from you, they've been in your drip campaigns, which are very interesting and widespread. Definitely.
Yeah, they all over the place.
Unique. They all come through Go High Level. And they don't look like spam in my box. I'll just tell you, but I used it recently, so it's probably like stuff with settings. You have someone on your team that does a lot of it, or are you like geeky enough that you go in and do stuff yourself?
I learned the hard way to build a lot of it out, but now I've got people helping me out. Like I have a copywriter who sends all my emails and does all my captions. I have a marketing team that's doing like all my Facebook ads and my webinar reminders. I clearly haven't woken up today.
What's the deal?
I overslept like nobody's business. I don't know what's going on. I must be fighting something.
In Missouri? So we're
1:30 in the afternoon.
12:30. What time do you normally get up? I just got to be nosy about what's going on.
Oh, normally like 6:30. I slept till like 10:15 this morning. I must be like coming down with something and I just don't know it yet, because I'm like, I slept 10 and a half hours last night and I'm still lagging.
Tired and yawning. Well,
yeah, it's weird.
Well, hopefully it doesn't take you out for too long. We'll just pick your brain here for a few more minutes and let you go back on your couch with a binky and like
a binky and some whiskey to
sniggle up there on your couch.
There we go.
So tell me. So I want to dig in on that, and I appreciate you doing that. That was the main reason I reached out to you again, because I was like, Dave, tell me how this stuff is working together. So I think I have a delineation where
for what you're looking to do with raising capital, I would say Go High Level is probably the better beast.
Yeah, and that's what we've been using based on our fund funds right now. When I looked at ReSimply again, which I hadn't, it reminded me of my on Carrot days of like
Same, very similar.
Wholesaling, house flipping, exactly. So it's kind of in that.
Yeah, in fact, Resimply has now. I haven't tested it out yet, but now you can even build one of those websites through them. And I don't know. I haven't gone through it as a new feature. I don't know if it's like they partnered with Carrot or they just decided they could do that too. But yeah, they even have that now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it had the same look and feel as one of those things that I set up. I think my original Froggy Realty site was like that back in 2018. So good though. All these tools are evolving, and we're doing our best to keep up with them every day, so that we can advise. So we can A, use them ourselves, and B, advise other people. But if you don't recall, my main background was systems engineering for years. Within the Air Force, within the military, which even as a consultant can be fake engineering at times. Like you're, overlooking a guy that knows what he's doing at Raytheon, telling him, "Hey, you're saving money for the government." Like it's like you want to build this yourself. You want to build this bomb yourself, or this ground station. But anyway, but I still have some street cred as an engineer. So now it's a little intimidating now that I'm an old guy and I'm like in my 50s, and just keeping up with the technology and apps is mind blowing, because it's very like one thing to the next, and you're like, oh, this AI tool does that, and this does this, and then I got my AI assistants out there doing stuff, but it all sometimes starts feeling a little bit wonky to me, relying on AI assistants. So I'm sort of in that uncomfortable zone where I'm recommending to people that they use something because I've seen in theory it should work, but in my heart I want to just talk to people and sit down. It's like I would rather sit down on a couch and talk to a husband and wife about investing. How do you feel about this whole AI rage? Because you seem to be capitalizing on it pretty well. But
yeah, it's a hit or miss for me. I mean, I feel the same way, but I just realized as much as I am a good connector, I need to focus my energy on reaching out to people who are like a step or two ahead of me. And I got so fed up with when people would no-show a call. And unfortunately, that happens too much. Everyone's like, help me, help me, help me, help me. And you're like, all right, cool, I'll take a bunch of calls. And then it was like, I used to do at 7 a.m. Pacific, every single Monday through Friday, I would take a 15-minute phone call, and it would be on my drive to work. And I would just talk to people every morning on my commute to work. And I would say at least 2 out of the 5 every week would not call. And I got to the point where I was just like, I'm never going to do this again. Like, this is like, for one, half the people who got on the call would ask questions that I'm like, if you'd read my book, looked at my website, done any homework anywhere, Googled anything, like, this is a kindergarten question. And I'm not saying it's a dumb question. I'm saying you didn't need to ask me. Like, I wouldn't get on the phone with, I don't know, Ed Milet and be like, hey, Ed, do you have a favorite savings account? What kind of savings account should I use? Like, I would get on a call with Ed Milet and be like, here's everything going on in my business. These are my 3 biggest pain points. Have you ever come across this, and do you know how to solve it? Like, this is a very unique, I'd love your thoughts. You're way ahead of me. What am I missing? And I would get on these calls, and it would be like, if I use the VA loan, do I have to live in the house? I'm like, bro, what are we even doing? Like, this is not any single one of my free resources would have told you the answer to that question. So would Google, so would AI, so would Siri. Like, it was so painful that I have gotten very good at automating, and basically I run people through, like, my team handles most of the calls. If someone wants to talk to me directly, they got to go through my assistant, and there's a good chance that my assistant will push you off to my COO. And the goal basically with them is I take meetings on Monday. If you can't make Monday work, you're clearly not that interested in meeting with me. I'm not going to take any call Tuesday through Friday unless it's something I'm looking to pursue to grow my business. And I realized that I'm just not that personality. I hate, like, if I have a single call at 2 p.m, that will loom over me, and I will not get shit done in the morning. Yeah. And I'm not saying like, oh my God, I have a 2 o'clock, but it's just like the knowledge that I have a deadline and I have to start working will keep me from entering a big project, because I hate the idea of getting stuck in the middle of a big project with the day, and then I have to stop for an hour and try to figure out where I was. I like to just get in the zone and go all day. And so, yeah, I take as few calls as possible at this point. And unfortunately, it's because the vast majority of people that would schedule calls with me were just wasting my time. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to say I don't want to help people. I'm saying that to say, like, you've also got to want to help yourself. Like, if I put a book out that I give away for free that answers all your questions and you haven't read it, and then you come and ask me the questions that are like literally chapter titles in the book, like, you're just wasting all of our time. And that's just unfortunate.
Lazy. That's just being lazy.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And there's a lot of laziness out there, and there's a lot of incompetence. It's funny.
I'm actually about to make a video where I tell the secret to how to find answers for questions the most efficient way. And the video is going to be me going to Google and typing the question in. Because if you haven't done that yet, you shouldn't reach out to anyone else. You're an idiot. Your answer's there. Between ChatGPT and Google, 95% of any question you've got is answered. Just use it.
Look it up. Yeah, try to help yourself. Citizen, like the search and rescue motto used to be, "Citizen, save thyself." Right? Just try to find the answer yourself. There's a lot of laziness on a lot of levels, but we could do another whole podcast about that and incompetence. It's funny. I said to one of my sons last week, I said, maybe I should scrap sort of this fund I'm working on. And I've been wanting to write this book called just The Competency Crisis. And then, of course, like any market researcher, like Google, did somebody already write the book about the competency crisis? And I saw something that it was a guy who wrote an article, and it was basically called The Complexity. What he said, complex systems will not survive the competency crisis, right? But then it got into some controversial areas. But he wrote it because it's obvious to everybody that we have a competency crisis going on. It may be worldwide, at least in the Western civilization, definitely in America. You just run into people, you run into bad customer service every day. You run into incompetence every day. And part of it is, I think, people could have all their own theories. It's the laziness factor. It's whether it's educational systems, whether it's my generation was too soft on their kids, or your generation's even softer on their kids, or college. Something's gone on where you have a lot of lazy, incompetent people, and people think that, that you can get away with it. Well, in certain things weed out people, right? The same sets of people that will look at professional sports team and be like in awe, like, whoa, Tom Brady passed for 50 touchdowns. So it's amazing. It's like, yeah, but you recognize this is a merit-based, you make it or break it. Like, and you admire this guy for hitting 100 home runs over a 2-year period because he worked hard every day at this, and it was a persistence, and he became competent at his level. Like, real life is that way too for the people that want to change their game, right? There aren't any free passes where you're just like, hey, Dave, will you be my mentor? Like, I don't know, I'm thinking about getting a real estate license. Yeah, what do I need, Dave? It's like, and I was doing that on Bigger Pockets for a while too, where I thought I was like trying to make connections with like-minded people, but it's a lot of beginners in there. Yeah, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a little more innocent. People are like intimidated by what to ask or how to ask it, but a lot of times, like you said, it's a laziness. And
and there's I would argue that there's good and bad laziness. It just depends on how you use it. There's the laziness of like, oh, I don't really know how to do this, so I'm going to go ask this person to help me, and by that they mean please do this for me or hold my hand. And then there's the laziness that like Bill Gates talks about, where he's like, I prefer to hire lazy people because it's the way that I would consider myself to be a fairly lazy person, but lazy in the way of like, I don't want to film. I want to show up and film a video and then have everything else done for me because I hate doing all the other shit. So how do I get to that? Okay, I need to hire this person, build this system, do this. In order to do that, I need to make this much money. Let me figure out how to do that. Offload. Now all I do is I show up, I hit record, and I upload it, and then I'm done. And everything else happens behind the scenes. Or lazy and like, how do I find a system or create an automation to make this happen where I never have to do it again? Let me create a template so I never have to do this again. So it's like the laziness, like the innovation or the lazy innovator, where it's like,
lazy innovator.
The
I like
less work I can do to get the same amount done, the better. And that's what like Bill Gates loves. And then there's the like, please do this for me. I'm not going to do, and I am absolutely not that type. I am the like, to a T. Oh man, I have to do this 3 times. Okay, how can I do it the first time in a way that it can be duplicated the other 2 times and save myself that time?
That's a fair statement and a good one. The lazy innovator. I like that. Yeah. Because the competence thing is more, the competence and customer service thing is more, I guess, what I really get into with that. But the laziness point of it is because if you want to be lazy in certain ways, you're creating efficiency. Like you said, I want to be like, you're going to go take a nap.
I work less now than I did before I ran a 7-figure business. I should say 7-figure. We will hit 7 figures this year if we stay on track. And it'll be the first time we've done that. And I work less and I work on less actual work than I have ever worked on in my past. But that's because as we grew, I hired people to do the things I don't want to do. So now I go on podcasts. Like, there is nothing about this that's work. Are you kidding me? If you told me 5, 6, 10 years ago, like, hey, Dave, you know what you're going to do for work on Thursday in 10 years? You're going to show up. You're going to do whatever the fuck you want. You'll record 2 podcasts and the day will be over. I have to talk to people for 2 hours and then just kind of do whatever I want. That sounds a pretty laid back work day. Like,
sign me up, right?
All right. Oh, and for podcasting, how much work is required? Oh, you just turn on your camera and your mic, you show up and you answer questions. Oh, sounds real easy. Like, this is about as lazy as it gets. I'm like, I'm drinking coffee that somebody brought me, you know?
I can barely keep you awake. You're like, I'm
lazy.
You're trying to head to like Elon Musk FU money status is where you're heading. You just want to do it at like, 4-hour workdays. I think, you raise a lot of good points in that, but it's like barely keeping you awake for this podcast. It's a 2-hour workday.
That by no means is the norm. The norm is definitely more energy and whatever. But the problem is I woke up so late that I couldn't take my Adderall because then I'd be up all night.
There you go.
So, and I just got an Vyvanse prescription this last week for the first time in my life. I was like, I wonder what would happen if I finally admitted to the world that I had ADHD and like once a week I could take one of those pills to help me focus. And then I got more done on Tuesday than I've gotten done in a single day in years. And I was like, okay, this works. I'm going to do this once or twice a week and just be honed.
Yeah. My wife's been bringing that up for like 30 years, right? She's a former therapist. And so and I'll say something. She's like, they got meds for that. I'm like, but I think most of us who have managed our own ADHD before it was called ADHD, like, would always fear, like, I don't want whatever that special thing is that comes along with ADHD because we consider ourselves special in some way. Like, first of all,
it's got tons of perks.
Mostly guys get, mostly boys. So I've always associated with, hey, you're just trying to not let this boy turn into a man, because he wants recess. He doesn't want to just sit. He doesn't. These things that work well for girls, we all know they don't necessarily work well for boys, right? So there's that aspect, but there's also the aspect of when you get into a zone and you're an ADD person, it's a thing of beauty when you get there. The rest of the time, people might think you're distant. You get
Imagine being able to make that happen. Yeah. That's what the Vyvanse does for me. I'm like, if I take this for the next 6 hours, I am going to be laser focused, and then it'll wear off, and I'll be good. And
nice.
So I'm like, I'm saving it for like my content days. I'm like, this will get me going all day.
Well, so now I love that sidetrack. We had the marine sidetrack. Now we can get into some pharmaceutical sidetrack discussion about Dave. But I love I tell you, the guy who I worked for directly, good friend and mentor, John Bogdasarian of Promanis. He's one of those guys that's found a way to really, he would say he's lazy. He had ADHD at a level way above me. And yet he became very successful. And when he's in a certain zone, he's unstoppable. But then he also won't overwork. So I've never been able to do that for whatever reason, whatever my past life is or how I work. Like, put me in a job that I should be able to do in 4 hours. I'll make it 10 hours. And you're like, I got to work more. I got to do more. I got to, got to do more. I got to be more. And my wife's always like, just tamp it down. So it's not, some of us have that built in. I'd like to turn it off because I admire more the guys that I think have been able to figure it out, have been able to like systematize things, trust other people more, and do what they do best, and sort of reserve their hours, be kind of greedy with their time. So I think you've hit that a little bit.
It has its perks, ups and downs.
What do you think about financing these days? I'm going to ask you, like, in the world of finance and creative financing or refinancing, or have you been finding some challenges lately, or?
Yeah, I mean, my whole portfolio is a challenge. I'm at my last 2 mortgages are locked at 8.99. That's a challenge. Like, it does not want to cash flow at that price. It's like, oh, you made $1,200 in rent. 980 of it goes to your mortgage. Like, that sucks. Whereas, it would have been 600 goes to your mortgage last year or 2 years ago. So I'm looking at basically doing a portfolio wrap on my, doing like maybe even look at a Fannie Freddie like fixed for 40, but basically looking at a longer term refinance strategy. If I got into, even if I locked at a 6% across my whole portfolio, it would save me like $3,000 a month in interest. So when I look, I'm like, man, my portfolio is not cash flowing. What's going on? And then I'm like, oh, all right, well, there's all my money. So there's ups and downs, I suppose, to looking through that. I mean, and then financing for hotels is a nightmare right now. Banks are just not wanting to play games or play ball with them. But overall, nothing too crazy. I mean, yeah, definitely still tons of like creative financing options out there. There's subject to opportunities to like take over existing mortgages at 3% or whatever they're fixed at. I think that's huge. So there's definitely a lot of options and opportunities out there. You just got to know how to play the cards and work the deal. I'm a huge fan of creative financing. I love it. And I would do that for most deals over most terms, over anything. And I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys assumed any debt recently in the last couple of years?
It hasn't panned out for me yet. We've done the opposite. Like we've now sold 2 apartments and a hotel on seller financing. 2 are sold and 1 is under contract. And we've offered like a full 100% financed wrap on all of them, and then a refi and a balloon payment, and they work out. So like right now on one of the apartments we sold, the guy is probably 90% of the way done renovating the entire complex. And he renovated everything, and then he's got, he's put probably $200K into it. He's raised the rents by like $5,000 across the board. And, he's got another year to refi and pay us out. And we're just, he's paying us, I think our mortgage is like $5,300, and he's paying us like $5,600 a month. Or actually, no, it's like we're arbitraging like $1,200 a month. So like $1,200 a month over the mortgage payment, which we're just dumping into the mortgage to pay it down faster and accelerate pay down. And and then he'll, when he's done with all of this, he'll refinance, and we should get all our money back by the end of the year in theory. And then the hotel is under contract. Similar thing. We owe $670 on it. And we just sold it for $1 million on a seller carry. And we make, I think on that one, we only make like $500 over the mortgage payment, but he's got a 2-year balloon. And so, whatever. I'm okay making $500 in cash flow for doing nothing. And then whenever he does pay us out, that $500 a month, accelerating the mortgage every month will just make the payout that much bigger.
That's smart. So you've been creative on the selling side.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing more of that with the rest of my portfolio. I haven't decided for sure yet.
It's a good idea. It's smart. We were looking at a deal this last weekend here in New Hampshire, and the guy, it turns out he's just a land flipper, but I saw he bought something for it was a single family home on like 7 acres that is in a commercial zone. And I've been driving by this place for years saying that's close to the grocery store and Tractor Supply and all this stuff. We should probably buy it. Anyway, this guy bought it for $300,000, I think. And he just basically tore down the house and cleared it up. And now he's selling it for like $600,000, where he had it on market for $750,000. I was like, how do you flip it that? I thought he was going to develop it out. So I contacted him. He said $600,000 firm, and I'll do seller financing on a 10-year note. So
Smart.
he's using that hook is very smart because some sucker is going to come along and do it. And,
well, the other thing with land is had he left the house on it, it'd be easier to finance. Without the house, vacant land is just not appealing to banks usually for holding. And so he knows whoever buys that is going to either have to buy it in a fund, buy it cash, or do some kind of creative financing through him. And he's going to make a killing on it because if he seller carries to the right guy, and let's say he even does 5% interest, which would be better for that guy than any other loan he'll get right now. He could probably do 7%. It'd still be better than any loan that guy would get. And then he'll just make that 7% nut without doing any work as cash flow until the day that the guy gets done developing and actually refinances.
Yep.
I love that move.
It is a great move. We're thinking more about land lately. Like we had these 24 lots in a subdivision. The plan was to do all spec homes, but it turned out when we did the math on how much it was going to cost to build and the extra time and pain of like building out and selling these houses, it made more sense for us just to sell the lots. And we made a killing with it just by selling out the lots and sold out a lot faster. So I am thinking more about land lately and also seller financing, having land and seller financing. It is a really good move, I think, because you will, in this environment, a lot of people are looking for seller financing. And so you'll get some people in that might pay a premium, especially over a couple of years. You have a good situation where a guy's got a balloon and he's got to pay it in a couple of years, right? I've been caught on the other side of that and I don't want that. So I'd rather be on the selling side of that.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure. So I'll ask you one more question before I let you go. And I want to hear about a good deal that you had lately. I won't even tell you about it. So, you can pick. Either tell me about like the best deal you've had in the past 2 or 3 years that I may or may not know about. You can tell us about something that's gone bad for you since I saw you in the last 3 or 4 years. You're like, I don't want anything like that again. I know 5 years ago when I talked to you about it was like an Arkansas multifamily or something. You had a bad deal. So you can't tell me that one again.
Hey, that was the Branson one. That took 4 years to close.
Unless you want to tell that one again.
4 years of lawsuit. That was just that was a lease option scam. It was a fraud deal. It just sucks. Yeah, that deal I would say was something bad. That was the 4-year lawsuit on a lease option fraudulent claim that I talked about on Bigger Pockets at one point. I think the episode is labeled like red flags of a deal gone bad or something like that. But lately I've actually had quite a few like cool deals, but none of them have been on like the selling side. I haven't really closed anything that's made me an exorbitant amount of money. It's like on the buying side right now. And we bought that hotel. We're going to do a full renovation. It's going to look amazing. It's in a great location. I got to stay there on vacation with my kid for free. Like all of that's awesome. Then I bought a duplex 0 down because the guy selling it was willing to, we worked some creative stuff. And so I was able to get in 0 down.
It's always good.
Yeah. And then I bought a 13 single family portfolio where I own 35% and all I did was sign on the debt and raise the down payment. And then my partner found the deal. He's operating the deal. He's managing the deal. And, so like to me, all of those are wins because they take minimal time, minimal capital, and they allow me to leverage network and relationships into deals, which I love. And everyone wins.
Yeah. And that points out it's one of those situations where somebody, and I'm not saying this is the case in the guy that had the 13 homes, but people often ask like, how can I get involved with no money? Not much money, little money, right? And I'm sure you have stuff written in your book about it. We generally go think wholesaling or house hacking, but in a more general sense, finding a good deal still matters, right? Like in your case, you're like, I signed on the debt and I gave the down payment. So guess what? If somebody could get through all your assistance and your CO and was no kidding serious, now that you've elevated yourself financially and otherwise in real estate stature, so it's hard to get in touch with you. If they could and they had a good deal, a no kidding deal, this is what I tell people all the time. That's the thing. You either have the money or you have the deal. And if you can have the deal, and having the deal to some level, you can do without money if you're very aggressive. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely agree with that. And I've done plenty of deals with people who didn't have the money. But one of my friends, I'm partnered on probably 3 deals. I don't know, at least 3 deals, maybe more. And most of them, he has brought the deal and the management, and I've brought the capital, whether my capital or bringing someone else's capital in or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's what people should, I think, try to focus on. And it's not necessarily just wholesaling, because that can take you down a slippery slope with wholesale, in my opinion, because you run into lots of strange, I'm sure you've run into even more strange characters and strange deals when it comes to the wholesaling, right? There's just a lot of interesting situations. You can be done the right way, but there's also always the way you feel like, am I going to tie this up knowing I can't close it? Do I really have a good cash buyers list? Any thoughts on the wholesaling side? Are you still, you probably have a huge cash buyers list, right?
Yeah, 1,200 people. I sold my wholesaling company 2 years ago. And then ironically, the guy I sold it to exited the market and gifted it basically to a friend of mine who brought me back in essentially as a marketing consultant. I'm a 20% owner in the LLC, and I run the marketing, and that's it. And it's cool. I don't have to, they give me the budget, I buy the letters, they do everything else. Now, admittedly, I did notice some things this last week where I was doing those Resimply videos where I'm going to need to go in the CRM and be like, hey guys, we're losing money here. Let's fix how this thing runs. But it's going well.
Yeah, it's awesome. Came back around for another bite of the same apple. Well, Dave, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go get your binky, get your nap, get your Adderall, whatever you need. Hopefully it's not, you don't get too sick. I really appreciate you taking the time with me today. Your marketing team is doing a fabulous job while you're sleeping, apparently, or just showing up for videos. Because the appearance over on this side is that Dave is everywhere. He's making all these videos. And I was like, man, if I had more hours in the day to work like Dave, I could be doing this. But you just unveiled your secret, and it's not you working harder. It's working smarter and other people working harder.
One of my best friends is always like, you run circles around people with your work ethic. And I'm like, just good at making sure people think I'm working.
You're doing a good job.
I will take one day and film an entire month's content. And then as long as it's scheduled appropriately, you will never know. And you will think I'm filming every day. And in that one day, I'm also better on camera than I would say 99, if not 99.9% of people. Every videographer I've ever worked with has been like, wow, did you just wing that? Yeah. I'll write a couple bullet points out, one take a video, throw it to my editor, one take another video, throw it to my editor. Yesterday I filmed 5 long form YouTube videos, 2 videos for my new website, and 2 full podcast episodes in 3 hours. And I'm like, all right, well, now they'll handle everything. It'll get scheduled. It'll get published. It'll get whatever. Everybody will think I'm everywhere. And now I can go back to planning everything out for the next week. And I'll film everything on one day.
Good job. Content creation, building a business, and then using content creation to accelerate. You just proved it out. This one, 33-year-old son was just telling me last night, you got to just start doing more content creation. Yeah. And more interesting stuff too. Not necessarily as much. Some of this is dry if I'm leaving it in a format. We had a few other interesting things that weren't sort of in the standard real estate discussion, but you have all these kind of crazy videos, and I think it's
you don't normally talk about Adderall and flying planes without a license.
No, this is the first. You're going to put.
Don't get me started on why marijuana is better than alcohol, which I didn't know until I got out of the military.
Oh no, it's late. Next time I'm going to be smoking a bong, I'm going to hey, how are you doing? I work 2 hours a week, Jim, and I make 8-figure business.
Hey, the less I work and the more I make, the happier life goes.
That's awesome. Well, all the best to you, Dave, you and your family, and we'll connect up more offline and see if we can get some deals done together or something interesting.
Sounds good, brother. I look forward to it.
All right. Catch you later. Hey, thanks for having me on. If anybody else wants to find out more about what we're doing, please come to froggycompanies.com check out our 3 different business areas. It's great talking to you, and see you next time.